Yes, welcome everyone once again to Collaboration Across Boundaries, Conversations at the Edge. The space that we're trying to create today is for bold and hopeful stories about working together across any boundary that we encounter when we're working collaboratively and inclusively. We don't really want to focus today on fixing what's broken, but really about amplifying what's already working and learning what it takes to do more of this together. So let me introduce, I think I need to share my screen, Emma. Thank you. Let me set the stage a little bit. Again, welcome. I think most of you know me. I'm Maggie Dugan. I'm from Inclusive Innovation, and most of you know Inclusive Innovation because we invited you here. But in case you're one of the people who've come to us through LinkedIn, a brief introduction that we are really passionate about helping people collaborate across boundaries. And we really know how important it is to invite different and diverse voices to that table, especially when we're working on complex challenges. And this is who we are. We are 35 facilitators sprawled across the globe with teams in different regions who are poised to help people collaborate across boundaries. And these are some of the boundaries that you're thinking about today. In our registration form, we asked you to tell us which boundary are you currently navigating or observing, and this is what we learned from you. A lot of research boundaries, helping communities work together, environment, co-creation, health, gender, climate. So these are the topics that are on your mind and that I hope will help you explore further today as we go forward. So let's begin. Let me introduce our guests. First of all, we have Ria Lambino, and she is the Deputy Director of the Future Earth Japan Hub and Director of the Research Institute for Humanity and Nature, which is also in Japan. She's leading work that really weaves together diverse knowledge systems to face complex sustainability challenges. And we also have Bruce Currie-Alder. He hails from Canada and describes himself in his LinkedIn profile as an impatient and stubborn optimist with a passion for research that catalyzes climate action. He is the program leader for several climate-related action programs at the International Development Research Center, also known as IDRC, and he supports research to bridge science, policy, and practice across the globe. I'm so excited to have the two of you here. Thank you so much for joining us. And being part of the first conversation in this series. I think I'd like to start by, first of all, giving both of you a chance to respond to the prompt in the chat. You know, what's your reaction when you hear the word collaboration? Which emoji would you choose and why?
Can I jump in? Yeah. Well, actually, I was gonna choose fun, but it's not in the it's not in the choices. So excited is another word because I actually feel excited when every time collaboration for me is just exciting and fun.
How about you, Bruce?
I'm going to cheat and say two. It's first really intimidated, but then getting beyond that, the curiosity. So there's an initial reaction of fear of the unknown, but then getting into it, actually enjoying that freedom of being able to explore that space.
Great, thank you. Well, we've invited you both here because we want to hear your stories. So let's not take any more time. Let's get you into your stories. Maybe Ria, you would start us off by telling a story about, you know, something clicked or we're crossing a boundary, made a collaboration possible in a new way. And I know when we were thinking about today's conversation, you mentioned an experience that you had working with the World Wildlife Fund. I'm wondering if you would tell us that story.
Yeah, sure. That would be great. So just as sort of an introduction as well for myself, I used to work with WWF, which is a conservation organization. And I don't know if many of you know, but it began as a species-focused conservation organization, primarily looking into, saving the panda. That's why the logo is a panda, saving the whales, tigers. In my case, I was with a project working with sea turtles. And so was part of this project, sea turtle conservation in the Philippines. And initially, I was with a group of essentially natural scientists. Our team were composed of experts doing biologists, the hydrologists, wildlife experts, ecologists, and all these natural scientists. And but the area that we're working within is actually a protected area for sea turtles, but there are a lot of communities living in that area. And so in one of our, when we do our research, it's really primarily ecological studies, right? And then there was one time when in one of our trips, community member came up to us and said, you always come here, you're all scientists, you're always studying turtles. And then they asked, what about people? What about us? Are turtles more important than us? And what about our needs? And, and I think that really, it allowed our team to reflect a bit in terms of how we were approaching the work that we're doing, because these communities actually lived with the turtles, sea turtles, they're part of it. And, of course, they have an impact on the sea turtles, but they could also potentially be part of the solution. So with that, we started, I mean, it was not a one-off thing, but over time, our strategy changed a bit. We had, internal discussions. Then we realized that we cannot not work with the communities. And so we changed strategies. We brought in, aside from the sort of the science aspect, we brought in social scientists and we did institutional assessments, stakeholder assessments, looking at communities, what their needs are. And then after that, we actually did a lot of meetings, dialogues with the community. And then we decided, even though we were a conservation organization, that we did livelihood, we did education, health, and different kinds of, we became kind of a conservation development program. And that I felt was really a kind of game changer for for my team, for the project. And not just for that, but the whole organization as well, at least in the Philippines initially, and elsewhere there were different things happening. But I thought that was a very, concrete way of, we're talking now about collaboration across boundaries. And we're seeing that this is not just, conservation. The project that I had to, most objective was we want to help conserve turtles. But of course, it's not just for the animal's sake, but also for the community's sake as well. And that was really an important aspect. And I thought that was a turning point for us. And the collaboration, we got the community to, it wasn't perfect, it was still difficult, but we were able to get the community and our projects to a certain level of success where there were policies in place and people were trying, awareness grew, and they were trying to help conserve the area as well. And also our team actually became composed of community members themselves. So it was not just us, we didn't just have experts, but we had members from the local community part of our team as well. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Yeah,
No, I'm really
go with
curious.
it.
The people in the community, what did they, what, who were they, and where did they come from, and what were they interested in? What was their point of view as they entered this collaboration?
Yeah, so many of them are so there a group that were like local indigenous people, the tribal groups that have been there historically even before many we even came there. And then there were also a lot of migrant communities in the area. But well, primarily they were interested in their livelihoods. They were interested in their children's development, in health and whatever. And so, um, they couldn't really think, I mean, in terms of the priorities, those were the ranking: livelihood, health, and education, and conservation was at the bottom. But actually, the exciting thing was that after a few years, we did another kind of survey to them, and somehow conservation was coming up as well. And it said, if they were able to address some of the other needs, then they're more open now to say, okay, yeah, we do understand that helping conserve the environment is also helpful for us.
Interesting. Let me turn to Bruce for a moment and hear
Sure.
Bruce's story and then maybe tie some things together. Bruce, you've been leading the collaboration that is CLARE, the Climate Adaptation and Resilience Program at IDRC. Can you tell us more about that and how you're collaborating there?
Great, thank you. And let me begin by acknowledging that I'm speaking to you from the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people, whose stewardship on the land and waters we now call Ottawa date back time immemorial. This is also the territory on which IDRC's head office has the privilege to be situated. So as you mentioned, I would love to share a bit about how IDRC, working with the UK Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, or FCDO, have nurtured what has become one of the world's most prominent research programs dedicated exactly to climate adaptation resilience. We're seeking to bridge critical gaps between science and action by championing Southern leadership that builds resilience to climate change and natural hazards. This requires collaboration across boundaries, which combines expertise and diverse organizations to work at scales that match the challenges we face. Thus, I believe the story of CLARE includes a spirit of collaboration at two distinct edges, between science and practice within teams and between our two funding organizations. Just going to briefly share. Looking outwards, we created a framework of overlapping research themes that intentionally bring together climate science, humanitarian actors, and development practitioners. This also means working across timescales, from extreme weather this season to implementing NDCs ahead of the next global stocktake, to navigating future climates beyond 1.5. The process to identify CLARE investments encourages co-creation with communities, policymakers, and others able to lead climate action. Today, we're working with over 130 partners in 30 countries. We ask teams to identify focal points that also provide one way of coming together and connecting across projects. Looking inwards, FCDO and IDRC sought to collaborate across organizational boundaries. We reflected on our expectations of partnership, the value we sought to create, our respective needs, and how to leverage each other's strengths. This has required ongoing coordination, especially as our operating contexts evolve over time. It greatly helps that we genuinely like and respect each other. We also cannot do it alone. We identified critical functions that CLARE needed, bringing in partners with expertise in communication, policy engagement, and capacity strengthening. So in a sense, growing the family over time. In this journey, I believe we navigate a tension between top-down contracts that you have for moving the money and entering into formal partnership, and the more collaborative ways of working as we listen to each other, find common ground, and refine tasks and deadlines. Collaboration at these edges of science and action and across our organizations really clicked this past May when 180 people convened for an in-person learning event in Lusaka. Hosted by the University of Zambia, this event shaped our community and made strides towards knowledge sharing amongst diverse individuals and institutions in CLARE-supported work across Africa and Pacific. So looking back, what has surprised me is the emergent knowledge that would never have happened without such collaboration. For example, we identified a set of threads beyond any one project, yet on which our program is advancing knowledge and practice, including how to evidence climate resilient development, how to link short and long-term actions, and how differential lived experiences of extreme events influence adaptation. To offer one illustration of the latter, in Lagos, Durban, and Nairobi, temperature and humidity sensors record when a heat wave happens, yet audio diaries recorded by residents allow them to convey what heat does to family and neighbors. We're still in the thick of implementation, yet over the coming years, I hope we might offer more opportunity to refine ideas and nurture teams. Most of our investments were tied to a one-time competition, yet I believe there is merit in a more ongoing process to nurture radical collaboration and find the right size of funding needed. I believe we're also witnessing a return of geography within climate action, working with a regional context and country leadership, for example, by encouraging more specificity in uptake and links with climate finance. One step in this direction is new partnership with the Association of Southeast Asian nations, focusing on nature-based solutions, grassroots experiments, and urban heat and housing. So finally, looking ahead, my invitation to you and others working at the edge is to be modest, brave, and kind. Be willing to put aside and go beyond our organizational context to find the richness that comes from working together. Making time to reach out to others, like we're all doing today, curating the space beyond our organizational settings to discover what we can create together. In an uncertain world, knowledge and know-how are more valuable than ever. There is an aspect of hope that brings us here together to learn from each other today. And being able to harness the power of partnership to invest in research and innovation to develop solutions is perhaps akin to a great chef maintaining their knives to sharpen and hone these edges at what we work. And I want to thank Inclusive Innovations for provoking this conversation and creating this space today. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a great story, Bruce. And, I think we were with you at the very beginning in 2020 at some of the initial meetings and watching this group of very diverse players come together, just at the organizational level, let alone of the work you're doing in the field. I wonder, a question for both of you is, what are the key ingredients that make this collaboration, these collaborations successful where other ones might fall short or might not quite achieve the same level of impact? What really makes an authentic collaboration happen?
Different question. If I may, maybe offhand, I would say for me, it's always been shared vision, for example, shared aspirations is one important thing that has made not just the example that I showed, I explained it earlier, but other collaborations I've been part of. A commitment of the people who are willing to go through it through thick and thin and to even though things are messy and to see it through. And then also this whole thing about respect and trust, I feel are quite essential ingredients. And time again, I just feel those really are important in work.
How about you, Bruce?
I'll just add, I think, a deep knowledge of an experience of what is one's home setting. So whether it be within one funding organization or one discipline, or really knowing your craft and your organization, where the flexibility may be in being able to collaborate or not, and what are the ways of being able to work with a system that may not be written down in as rules, if you will. So that sense of being well rooted in a home context, be it an organization, a discipline, what have you.
Yeah,
Nice.
I agree with that.
It's something that we are exploring as deeply as we can because we really want to make sure that the collaborations that we help to facilitate are authentic. And it's not just a simple step to get there. Well, I want to say that we've invited Bruce and Ria here today, not as experts, even though they are experts in their work and in their field, but we invited them here not as experts, but as stimulus to inspire all of us as we think about what it takes to work collaboratively across boundaries. So with their stories as stimulus, our plan now is to invite everyone here to step into the conversation yourselves. So we're going to put you into breakout rooms and mix you with a few people. And I'd like you to think about this as a space to reflect together. Okay, we're not trying to solve or analyze, but to really notice with each other what resonated with you. What did you hear that's really interesting, and what would you take away from these stories? So we're going to put you into breakout rooms, and we invite you, first of all, to introduce yourselves briefly. So we call them one breath introductions, where you really take one breath. Hello, my name is Maggie Dugan. I live in Barcelona. I run this company called Inclusive Innovation. We're 35 facilitators, blah, 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 blah. And that's just enough to give context to the other people in your breakout room about who you are, but then to share and discuss with the rest of the team your reactions to what you've heard. We'll put a few prompts in the chat I would like to underscore, you do not need to follow these prompts. You do not need to answer every single one. You can ignore them. The point is they might help guide your conversations in the breakout sessions to think about what struck you as interesting. Is there an idea that you could absolutely take forward in the work that you're doing? And as you look ahead, is there a boundary that you'd like to cross? So with that, Emma, do you want to set people up with some breakout rooms?
Absolutely. I'm going to put people into breakouts now. Johannes, oh, perfect. Thank you for letting me know that. Let me just make sure that I'm just going to move a couple of people around to make sure that they're not on their own.
I'll give you about 15 minutes for this conversation, by the way. So keep that in mind and share the microphone, if you will, in your breakouts.
Perfect. Okay, I'm opening breakouts now. Of course, if you have any technical troubles throughout this, please do just pop back into the meeting or pop back here into plenary. I will be here the whole time. But enjoy your conversations and I'll invite you back in 15 minutes.
Happens. I'm sad to hear that people get cut off, but that means that the conversations were rich and vibrant. Welcome back, and I hope they were just that, rich and vibrant. I'd love to know if there was anything surprising, inspiring, or memorable that came up. So please, if you would, drop it in the chat. It's always nice to have a cascade of comments and insights that come out of the breakout sessions, and then we can also, it's a way of keeping them. We don't lose them into thin air. So if you would type in the chat, what came up for you? What did you observe? What resonated? Maybe in terms of what you found in common within your breakout. And as well, invite any voices from the room. If you want to raise your hand or say it out loud so everybody can benefit from hearing it. I'm happy to take a few comments. We have time. Anyone? See, I'm reading them. What's the hook for people to join collaborative efforts? Letting
I think.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tim. You're from my room anyway.
Okay, that's right. We are. So I was typing, but my typing is so bad that it's easier to talk. So Izzy raised the really important thing, perspective of the hierarchy of needs that we all bring with us, which are not necessarily coincident with the other people in the room. And I think we can even, probably expand that a little bit more and say it's the hierarchy of needs, the hierarchy of values, the hierarchy of experiences that make us individuals, and how both necessary and challenging it is to begin to understand that, to work towards that. And unless, there's this wonderful term in nonviolent communication. They say connection before solution. And it strikes me that until you can get to the connection, all your solutions, this is words. It's just, hot air. But the connection part, that's the thing that allows the thing to percolate, that it allows whatever needs to happen to, begin, rising like a loaf of bread or whatever it is. That's, for me, the core.
Thank you for that, Tim. It's so true. Sometimes we're in a hurry to do things and we skip that time at the beginning of an event where people meet each other and connect. It's really true. It's a nice one. Anyone else?
I think another point that impacted me in our conversation, in addition to what Tim has mentioned from what Izzy highlighted, is Tim's confession that he sat in a room of collaborators or in a meeting, and amongst people who he didn't necessarily agree with or have the same ideology. And it took him a moment to recognize that it was him that needed to realign his thoughts, and like recognizing that as an individual, I think is so important in collaboration. And I think from that conversation that inspired me a lot.
Anyone else? That's so true. Anyone else?
I think that really speaks strongly to making sure that we create emotionally safe places. Collaborations are not just about head to head, and that came up in our conversation quite strongly in our group. And Binyan was sharing some lovely insight about the idea of ongoing relationships. You know, it's not just a one snap in the moment. If you are the person who needs to sort out your perspective, you need space to be able to do that. So yeah, I think there's something really important about how we care for each other when we're in collaborative interactions.
So I would like to add the importance of connecting to nature, because we are, as you mentioned, like we are often in our head, you know, and everything is in four walls, you know, in rooms. But like on my side at Patagonia, we have a volunteering program, and we help employees join restoration projects in partnership with some of our grantees. And I can really feel and see the difference, like before and after, that they have a better understanding of the campaigns we are working on, and yeah, there's this special connection that is created forever in a way. So yeah, the connection with nature is very important, and being outside, having our hands in water, in the soil, seeing life coming back. I think this is very powerful as well.
It speaks so much to the sense of climate, and climate being the emotional space in the room, but also the physical space around what brings people together and helps them feel alive and connected. Thank you, Caroline.
Yeah, there was another thing that Miguel was saying about climate change research, and is the importance of collaborating not just among researchers, but also being connected with the community. So that means that collaboration has to be also with them. And I think that's really important. And something that II has been working very hard is in transdisciplinary research. So that's something really important to take into consideration. Yeah.
Izzy.
Okay, you wouldn't have me in the room without hearing the word polarities. But as I'm listening to some of these reflections, I'm also starting to become aware that perhaps collaboration is the key that helps us navigate the polarities of points of agreement and points of difference, right? So where we are in agreement about what matters and where we disagree about what matters, those they both offer great values, but they also offer challenges. And collaboration is finding a way to navigate and leverage both of those very important perspectives. So just throwing that out there for people to ponder.
That collaboration lives in the infinity link of both sides. Yes. Go ahead, please, Leila.
So as I was instigated, oh, I'm so glad to see Izzy and Caesar again. Trying to promote this kind of transdisciplinary research across different countries and across the boundaries of the different sets of knowledge is also recognizing and going towards the polarity thinking, that conflict is something useful and not negative. So that's how we can promote the connections between really different perspectives without pushing someone down, this is the only way of doing this, like recognizing conflict and saying that's how it should be, because there are diverse perspectives on the table here. Yeah, that's what all the conversations here brought to my mind.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very rich and maybe a great way for me to invite Bruce and Ria to come back into their conversation. They had we went into the breakouts and they had a really terrific conversation that I wish you all would have heard as well. But I'm curious, Bruce and Ria, first of all, do you have a reaction to the reactions to you? Do you have a reaction to some of the things that you just heard recently?
I think the first reaction is there's so much more going on in the world than we're aware of. And it's so easy to get absorbed by the four walls that you're in on a regular basis, whether it be your own organization, your Zoom call, or even your own collaboration, and making the space for exploring what's still out there. And what was part of the conversation we were beginning to have in that moment of, okay, we're through the first bit of the conversation, was the difference that still exists between working together and working alongside. That sometimes when we approach these edges or boundaries, we're feeling our way through, and there may be a point when we do have to work together on something, but then there could also be moments when we complement each other. What my team may be able to do and what one of the collaborations you're involved in are actually doing slightly distinct things. So Ria and myself, our teams are doing things that are different, and there's a richness in that difference. There isn't going to be something that's solved by all of a sudden creating one grand design that everything has to fit into. And in that sense, I'm inspired to extend a little bit that analogy of being a chef that I ended on by being able to say, there isn't one way of feeding and nourishing people. There is still a richness of having diverse cuisines, different ways of preparing food, of coming together to enjoy a meal. So for us to continue being open to both of those possibilities, where we can still work together on these boundaries and where we can realize where there is that complementarity and respect that difference.
Thank you. How about you, Ria?
Yeah, just to jump in and just add a bit to what Bruce mentioned, we talked also about wanting to find synergies and complementarities. So yeah, he was able to capture many of the things. But I do want to maybe touch a bit about this discussion about polarities and differences, and maybe share a little more about where my own journey right now at the moment is, because I'm now involved in this we're calling it a Asia Science Mission, where the mission is about bringing together and finding a different way for science to work on flipping the science model of the International Science Council. And in this this collaborative group that we have, natural scientists, social science, whatever, we had a lot of disagreement just very recently, and we thought, and I thought that was a good process, that we needed to fight things out, because it's important, as some of the colleagues earlier mentioned, that agreeing to disagree is also quite important, that we will have to have this kind you know wrestling through these ideas is as important as also coming into a consensus or an agreement as well.
Yeah. I love that you said that. I think there's the voice of the productive dissident helps keep us all honest and authentic when collaborating. It doesn't make it easier, but it makes it authentic. Any other reactions to what you heard from the group, either one of you? Otherwise, I would invite you to maybe give us some closing thoughts, if you would. I'd love to hear from you, Ria and Bruce, what would be your wish for future collaborative endeavors, or like really, what would you hope people would walk away from? What's your invitation to those of us who joined today in terms of working at the edge?
Okay, yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, I'm also learning a lot from the reflections in the chat and from those that have been shared, and I'm gonna take note of it and try to apply it in what I'm doing right now, which is the Asia Science mission has just started, so I really want to apply it. But I guess I really do want to say that definitely it will be messy if you're looking across boundaries, crossing and different perspectives, different people, different backgrounds, it will be messy and hard and difficult. But, I guess I want to encourage us all, including myself, to continue to be humble and to embrace this messiness and to lean into it. And I really do believe in, I'm a firm believer that collaboration do make things happen. And so there's a lot of hope and potential for such things. And let's just do it then.
Thank you.
I'll just add that I'm really thankful that you're creating this space, Maggie, and inclusive innovation. You've curated a long list of really interesting collaborations over time, people who are leading in that messiness. And you made reference to our first time working together was 2020, before coronavirus made the world weird. And we've just seen even more turbulence since. So, what is the courage needed? That connection before solutions has only become all the more valuable. And it's so easy for us to be feeling disconnected. But I really welcome the invitation to join you today, and that there's another episodes. There are going to be continuing these opportunities to get a sense of what is this curated menu of how does it actually work in practice that your experience has been able to gather and you're able to share back with us now. So really looking forward to the next edition.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I may, thank you also. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be part of this first round of conversations.
Well, we thank you both. And it's always striking how much richness emerges when we step back and have a conversation like this. And, what I'm hearing about collaboration is it's not about the structures or the systems, but it's about relationships and trust and connection and the shared experience of discovering, I guess, with humility, something new that's becoming possible. So I'm thankful to both of you. And we're going to close soon, but I would love to give you just a few more invitations. One of them, which is to think about, what's your takeaway today? What boundary, could you cross? What's a conversation that you could spark across boundaries, in the days ahead? So I invite you to take something from this and put it into thought and action right away. And also, we're looking ahead. There is indeed another collaboration across boundaries scheduled for the 2nd of December. You can take a screen grab of that QR code, although we'll be sure to send you that invitation as well on 2nd December, about the same time of day, so that we can help people from all different time zones hopefully connect. Some of you later than others, some of you earlier. Thank you for those who got up at the edges of the day. We have Anna Stewart-Ibarra from the Inter-American Institute for Global Change Research, and also Ben Merton from Wellcome Trust. And we invite you to follow us on LinkedIn, please. We're always happy to see you there. And in the chat, you will find a link for feedback. And we really feel like feedback is a gift. And we'd love to know from you what you liked about today and what you would like more of, and what we could, if you also have any suggestions for people who you might consider bringing into the conversation, because we'd like to continue to do this, as you know. So we thank you so much for joining us today. I thank you again, Bruce and Ria, for being our guests. I thank you, Emma and Vince and Lisa, for helping to organize this behind the scenes, and the entire Inclusive Innovation team who showed up here, and all of you guests who signed up and registered and came with us. Thanks for helping this conversation happen.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone.
Thanks. Great to see you all.
Hopefully see you next time.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for organizing again.
Thanks.
Thanks, Caroline.
See you.
Ciao.